Welcome everybody to another Indie Dev Showcase video here on the channel. Every Wednesday night we play nothing but indie games and spotlight those titles in these recap videos. If you'd like to submit a game for a future stream, please get in touch. But otherwise noted, all the games shown here will have been played via press keys. So we are beginning our video today with Demon Crawl. And this is essentially Minesweeper by way of roguelike. So, the general idea, of course, that this is Minesweeper. Your job is to figure out where the mines, aka monsters, are on the map, notate what is safe, what isn't, and make it through to the next stage. I believe that this is either made for mobile or was ported to mobile in terms of its design, but the Steam version has no in-game microtransactions, and anything can be earned through play. With that said, like I just mentioned, at the end of the day, this is Minesweeper. So if you don't like it, then nothing they're going to add is going to really change it. But the elements that have been added do give it a little extra edge. So you have a leveling system that unlocks new content as well as upgrades. You have various items, artifacts, and minions and such that can help you, such as fighting monsters, revealing tiles, reducing damage that you take, and so on and so on. And Demon Crawl here is one of those titles that you'll know very quickly whether or not you're going to enjoy this one. And like I said, if you absolutely despise Minesweeper, if you cannot get into it, it's just not your kind of game, then none of these additional systems will unfortunately work for you. But this does make Demon Crawl a really great kind of rainy day kind of title. Something to play when you have some minutes to kill, and you're looking for something a little bit different. I don't know if it really scratches that roguelike itch, as the game definitely goes for a lot of long-term play, a lot of grinding of maps to raise your level to unlock more elements. You can also unlock little icon characters and other little cosmetics too. But with that said, I will give the developers credit for doing something very different with a design that I think we all thought we have seen everything from it. And with that, let's move on to our next game. This is Old Gods Rising, and this is a first-person adventure, I guess, slash walking simulator, I guess in this case, campus or museum simulator. We play a doctor of, I think he's archaeology, who has been called into a set at an ancient college, or a place that was built on top of mysterious ruins, to help assist with kind of the authenticity of the movie. And when he gets there, as per usual for these kinds of games, everyone is missing and he is unsure as to what is going on. And to figure that out, we are going to have to go, I guess, on a little campus tour, searching for various artifacts, sculptures here, and learning that there is something mysterious and possibly dangerous afoot. Unfortunately, as another thing per these games, the dangerous stuff doesn't really affect you. And you're going to spend the majority of your time just wandering around the campus here, which, while the graphics certainly look pretty good just in terms of the architecture and kind of environmental design, there really isn't a lot going on here. There's some basic puzzle solving and kind of a little mini game where you're trying to spot little nodes or do like a little quick time event. But again, it's a title that just doesn't seem to want to get out of the way of its own story and let you get involved with the gameplay. If you are fans of, again, these narrative or incredibly narrative focused titles, then I would say give this one a check. But if you're looking for a little puzzle solving and gameplay to go along with it, it did not seem like Old Gods Rising was going to do much for me. But with that, let's move on to a game that is the complete opposite, and that is Tesla Force. Now, the footage you're seeing is taken from their pre-early access alpha build, and this is of course from developer 10 Ton, who are the makers of stuff like, I think, Crimson Land, Judge, and the first game, Tesla vs. Lovecraft. So our story is that H.P. Lovecraft, being jealous or angry with Nikola Tesla, decides to cause the Lovecraftian apocalypse. And the only person who could save the day was Tesla with his steam-powered mech suit. I am not kidding, that was part of the plot of the game. Tesla Force expands on things, allowing more characters. There is co-op. We couldn't get to play it in this version. But they're trying to expand on the game with more modes, more persistent elements, and things along those lines. But at the end of the day, this is a twin-stick shooter that involves killing lots and lots of squid-based monsters and demons. Each mission will have you try and complete an objective, either kill enough enemies, hit enough points, destroy certain points of interest, etc., etc. And you'll find different weapons, and as you play and kill enough enemies, you'll unlock perks and upgrades that can show up. The game features a semi-robust persistent element. Completing objectives and just making overall process in the campaign will unlock new guns, perks, and items that can show up in subsequent plays. You can spend this kind of like purple crystal to unlock permanent benefits that will work for each character, such as increased reload speed, more health, and etc. The different characters also have some very basic stat changes. They may start with a perk, they may be better with a certain weapon type, and it just goes a little bit of trying to add more depth compared to Tesla vs. Lovecraft. But at the end of the day, this is still a twin-stick shooter involving Nikola Tesla having access to steampunk mech suits. So if you're hoping for historical accuracy, I'm afraid this is not the right game for you. And this is a game that definitely knows what it wants to be. If you are not a fan of run-and-gun shooting, the idea of spinning around shooting multi-shot explosives that bounce and spread everywhere that they go, if that doesn't interest you, then nothing that Tesla Force has is going to, I think, hook you. But if you're a fan of 10 Ton's previous games, and you are in the mood for some run-and-gun action, then definitely give this one a check. We haven't played it since this build, and I know they have done some updates to it on early access, and maybe we'll take another look at it in the near future. But with that said, we're going to take our quick break now, and when we come back, we've got a few more indie games to look at for this video. And now for a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom supporters and sponsors. Going forward, all Patreon supporters will get early access to our videos. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, link down below. If you're looking for more wisdom about game design, be sure to check out my latest offering of books, 20 Essential Games to Study, aimed for first-time developers and students looking for some inspiration for their upcoming games, and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers if you're interested in anything regarding 2D and 3D platforming design. They're both available in print, digital, and wherever books are being sold. For our next game, we turn to Awesome P2. This is a modern retro platformer that looks like something right out of the Game Boy. And as a sequel, this game goes for kind of more the challenging platformer side. Your character has a fixed height when they jump, so you'll have to make use of kind of falling and double jump logic in order to avoid obstacles. And of course, as with classic games, you'll be challenged to collect MacGuffins in the form of these coins, and the game will also notate how fast you run through it. Now, while the game does go over that classic look and feel, it does fall into some of the more challenging aspects of games that we see today. The big point, of course, is timing your jumps. Again, by the fact that you have a fixed height, means that you can't get away with jumping and just not holding down the button, to avoid hitting a ceiling or a trap. You have to properly manage where your P is at all times. Now, it may be hard to hear, but the music does again evoke those very lovely chiptune sounds of yesteryear. And again, as with some of the games that we've seen in our videos so far, it is very much a game that knows what it wants to be. And with that said, it's also a game that you know whether or not you're going to enjoy playing it. And for myself, this falls in that category of a game that if I didn't play it on stream, or if I left it after this initial play, I don't know if what's here is enough to bring me back and play it. And unfortunately, I've ran into games like that, especially those of the modern retro variety. If you're hoping for boss battles, new mechanics that are introduced, new tech that you have to make use of, Awesome P2 doesn't go that far. And again, this map screen that you see right here, that is the game. Like, I don't think there are multiple worlds to it. And I enjoy the game from a platforming perspective, but it doesn't really do anything new or different with the genre or the mechanics therein. So, if you are looking for a new kind of, again, classic or modern retro platformer, and you've kind of exhausted all the other games, Awesome P2, for what it is, works. Like, I couldn't find any issues with the design, controls, anything along those lines. But it is just very much on the smaller scale, compared to some of the examples that we have seen from indie developers in terms of expanding on this design. And now we turn to the game Spirit Oath. The version that you're seeing was played during its early access and may not represent the current version of it. And we got ourselves a very interesting game. I guess the simplest way of describing this would be a puzzle or tile-based tower defense game. So, our concept in this one is that we're placing tiles down that have varying symbols on them. When the symbols combine with one another by connecting either similar looking ones or creating a specific setting or a specific pattern, it creates a character spawner. And each character has varying stats, what they're strong against, what their purpose is. And your job is to essentially send your minions out to reconquer the land from the bad guys. And the bad guys have unit spawners of their own that are set up on the map. And you'll need to create both a path to them, as well as trying to deny them access to your core, or in this case, both your cores. To win, each map will have a specific objective. In this case, again, it's defend our two bases. Other times it may be kill X amount of units, defend for a certain number of turns or time, and so on and so on. Now, the version that we played here was on the limited side in terms of persistence and additional options. But the main thing about this game is that they're definitely going for a redefining the wheel, or they're trying to break something that wasn't originally broken in terms of this kind of tower defense puzzle-like design. And my problem with this game is that I feel that I just was not enjoying this core gameplay. You see, the maps, as you get into situations like this, when you are being hounded from all sides by enemies, you're going to have to be constantly managing units on top of placing tiles, on top of making sure that the tiles match properly. And if you're not a fan of micro-oriented real-time strategy games, then this one is not going to work for you at all, because there are no real concessions made for macro-oriented play. And it kind of felt like the best strategy is to essentially alpha strike each major point, because if you leave an enemy spawner even at like 2% of health, they're going to still be able to spawn units and mess with you. And once you start to lose ground, you're not going to make up for it. Now, in that case right there, I bum rushed the major point and managed to win. And the game does have an interesting story about you trying to figure out who you are and what's going on, which I'm kind of talking over right now. But ultimately, unfortunately, I did not enjoy this game. And the big thing is that if you are looking for something that is entirely different from an RTS perspective, then Spirit Oath will definitely work for you. But if you're not a fan of this kind of design, and especially the very micro focus of it, then I don't think this game will work for you. Now, please keep in mind that, again, the version that you're seeing here is from the early access play, and this was like a few weeks before they actually went on. So there is a chance that what you're seeing, or they have made improvements in terms of the general UI and quality of life issues. And I'm curious, for those of you who did play this one, what did you think about it from a design perspective? And whether or not what the game did to be so differently ultimately either helped or harmed its chance with you. But with that, we got time for, I think, one more game. And we have the 2D survival horror Derange. And this is a game that I was really getting into when we played it on stream. So, this is essentially, again, a classical style survival horror game, but done in kind of this top-down 2D RPG look. So, we are stuck in an evil house/mansion. There may or may not be something sinister going on, and we're going to puzzle solve and fight our way out, or, of course, die trying. And the game lets you start with two different characters. They each begin with different items, and of course that affects the difficulty in some aspects. And the challenge of the game seems to be built on, again, a lot of the aspects of good horror design. You're going to get attacked, you're going to have to avoid enemies. Combat is done in real time. Like, it does not go into like a turn-based mode for it. And the game hits a lot of those good markers. Unfortunately, there was one very big deal breaker. And that is, when we played it, the game was broken. And I mean that literally. What you're going to see in like the next 10 seconds, when we run into this mansion, the game refuses to load the next scene. And there was no way to get around it. We reloaded. When we first played the game, it was stuck in Russian. And we had to go in and edit one of the files in order to change that. And unfortunately, that is not good for any game. And we played this several months ago, so I do not know if the developer eventually did patch it, but it basically forced us to end the play of it here. And unfortunately, if you are interested in trying this one out, I would say check it out at your own risk. But with that said, we're going to wrap up our video here. Again, I would like to thank developers who submitted games, and we are always looking for new titles, be it on Steam, Humble, Itch, whatever. If you want me to check it out, please get in touch. And we will be back every Wednesday for our weekly streams of indie games. Thanks again for watching. Check out the Discord and Patreon link down below, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below, where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it. And tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.